Yankees fans, the offseason has barely begun, and the Bronx already feels like a pressure cooker with so many moves, rumors, twists, and puzzles acontecendo de uma vez. When the front office starts shifting pieces this early, it usually means they are preparing for something bigger, and the very first sign of that came with the arrival of a new infielder who might not look like a blockbuster addition on paper, but carries the kind of profile that can quietly shape a roster. Jonathan Ornelas is the type of player who forces a conversation not because of his bat, but because of everything he brings defensively. And the Yankees see something in him that fits perfectly with the uncertainty around their infield depth as the new season approaches. His deal may be classified as a minor league contract, yet nothing about the situation feels small. The Yankees didn't just sign him to stash him away in the background. They gave him a chance to earn a real role. A non-roster invitation to spring training means the team wants a long look at him. Even more interesting is the opt-out clause built into his agreement, giving him the ability to walk away midway through the year if he is not added to the 40-man roster. That kind of clause is not included lightly. It signals that Ornelas believes he belongs in the majors, and it tells the Yankees that he expects a legitimate opportunity, not just a pat on the back and a locker in the minor league clubhouse. His offensive numbers from last season are not going to turn heads. He spent most of the year in AAA between Texas and Atlanta, fighting through a tough stretch where his average sank below the 200 mark. His brief moments in the big leagues over the past 3 seasons weren't enough to change the narrative yet, with limited production and no home runs across a handful of appearances. A former third-round draft pick, his track record in the minors shows flashes but not consistency at the plate, and by now teams across the league see him for what he is, a glove-first player whose defense could be his ticket to a permanent job. And that is exactly why the Yankees made this move. They need someone who can cover the most demanding infield positions without hesitation, someone who understands the angles, footwork, and timing of the middle infield better than most. Ornelas has played thousands upon thousands of innings at shortstop alone throughout his minor league career. Add to that his time at second base, third base, and even in the outfield, and suddenly he becomes a flexible tool the Yankees can use to stabilize the roster while dealing with injuries or inconsistency. The timing matters here. Anthony Volpe is expected to start the season recovering from shoulder surgery, and while Jose Caballero projects as the likely temporary starter, depth is thin behind him. Oswaldo Cabrera, Jorbit Vivas, and Braden Shoemake are options, but only one of them is a natural shortstop, and even he is coming off a year in AAA that was solid but not spectacular. When a team has that many question marks, bringing in a defensive specialist becomes much more than a casual experiment. It becomes insurance, competition, and preparation all at once. For Ornelas, the Yankees present a rare chance to fight for a role on opening day. His bat may still need work, but a team looking for dependability in the field might be exactly where he can carve out a lane. If his glove plays as advertised, he doesn't need to be an offensive machine. He only needs to hold his own until the roster stabilizes, and that alone might be enough to earn a real spot. Low risk, high reward. That phrase gets thrown around a lot in baseball, but sometimes it fits perfectly, and this is one of those times. But while that move caught attention, what really ignited the Yankees fan base was the giant storm brewing out west involving one of the biggest stars in the league. The idea that a player of Corey Seager's caliber could be on the move again is wild on its own, but the possibility that he could end up in the Bronx has sent shockwaves through every corner of Major League Baseball discussions. Even if this is still a prediction and not an official report, the logic behind it is strong enough to make people sit up and take notice. The Texas Rangers are heading into a transformational offseason. Their plan is clear: reshape the roster, get younger, and free up money for future flexibility. They have expensive contracts scattered across their payroll, and moving one major piece might be the most efficient way to realign their structure. That brings us to Seager, who carries a massive commitment over the next several years and instantly becomes the most valuable trade chip they have if they choose that route. For the Yankees, the fit is obvious. The shortstop position was a glaring weakness throughout the previous season, both offensively and defensively. The numbers were among the worst in the league, and the team cannot afford another year of uncertainty at such a crucial position. Seager would completely change the identity of the lineup overnight. He is an elite left-handed bat perfectly suited for Yankee Stadium, a proven postseason performer, a multiple-time All-Star, and a player who elevates an entire roster simply by being present in the 2 or 3 spot of the batting order. And the biggest detail in all of this is that Seager's contract includes a list of teams he can block a trade to, and the Yankees are not one of them. That alone keeps this scenario alive and believable. Any trade for a player of his caliber would require significant assets going back to Texas, whether that is a major league contributor, highly ranked pitching prospects, or the willingness to absorb most of his remaining salary. But when the target is a shortstop capable of producing at an MVP level, teams like the Yankees tend to stretch their comfort zone. All of this creates a fascinating setup for what could be one of the most dramatic off-seasons the Yankees have had in years. The front office is under pressure, the fan base is demanding results, and the roster needs upgrades that cannot wait. And right when the hype around a major move begins heating up, another unexpected twist hits the Bronx, reshaping the outfield conversation entirely and adding more urgency to the decisions that must come next. Just when the Yankees front office thought they had a clear roadmap for addressing their outfield needs, an unexpected twist turned every plan upside down. Trent Grisham accepting the qualifying offer sent shockwaves through the team's offseason blueprint, not because his return is unwelcome, but because it complicates every other domino that was supposed to fall between now and opening day. The Yankees were preparing for flexibility, exploring high-priced free agents and internal promising youngsters, and suddenly they must reevaluate the balance of defense, power, youth development, and budget all over again. Grisham returning for a salary north of $22 million would have sounded strange just a year ago, but his breakout performance at the plate changed everything. Hitting over 230 with more than 30 home runs and close to 90 runs batted in, he turned himself into a legitimate offensive force. For the Yankees, who have endured multiple seasons with inconsistent production in center field, that kind of bat cannot be dismissed lightly. The front office was realistic in understanding that if a player who just posted that level of power walked away for a long-term deal elsewhere, at least a compensatory draft pick would soften the blow. But he chose to stay, and now the Yankees must figure out how to make the puzzle work. The real issue is not Grisham's bat, it is his defense. For years, he built a reputation as a 2-time Gold Glove center fielder. But last season, he recorded some of the worst defensive metrics of his career. Advanced analytics painted a concerning picture, showing negative numbers in multiple categories that typically define elite center fielders. With his age approaching the late 20s and center field being one of the most physically demanding positions on the diamond, the Yankees must decide whether his defensive downturn was a fluke brought on by minor injuries or simply the beginning of a decline in range and reaction time. That question matters because center field is one of the most critical roles on a team built around run prevention and pitching depth. If his glove cannot return to form, the entire outfield alignment changes. And that adjustment has a ripple effect across the roster, creating a bottleneck for players who are expected to play larger roles. The Yankees now have to make a tough choice involving 4 players chasing 2 outfield spots. On the free agent side, Cody Bellinger and Kyle Tucker remain incredibly tempting targets. Bellinger's ability to hit left-handed power, play multiple outfield positions, and serve as emergency cover at first base makes him nearly perfect for Yankee Stadium. Tucker, meanwhile, is the crown jewel of the market, offering a rare blend of athleticism, power, base running, bat control, and defensive excellence. But both come with enormous price tags, and Grisham's contract eats into a significant portion of what was expected to be earmarked for a major signing. Even if the Yankees decide to stretch their payroll to unpredictable levels, they still must deal with the internal competition that cannot be ignored. Jason Dominguez, the switch-hitting phenom who generated enormous anticipation among fans, needs regular playing time to develop into the star many believe he can be. He will be just 23 when spring training begins, and the team knows he cannot be used sparingly without stunting his growth. If Grisham locks down center field and the Yankees bring in a star-level outfielder, suddenly Dominguez becomes the odd man out, stuck between the pressure to perform immediately and the lack of consistent at-bats. Then there is Spencer Jones, the towering power threat whose breakout in Double-A and Triple-A showcased the type of raw strength and athleticism rarely found in prospects his size. His home run totals, his ability to lift the ball to all parts of the field, and his speed for a player of his frame turned him into one of the Yankees' most closely watched rising talents. But he also strikes out a lot, and there are questions about whether his hit tool is ready for the major league level. Despite that, his upside is too high to ignore. The Yankees must decide whether to give him time to develop in the majors or keep him in AAA longer, especially if Grisham's presence limits roster spots. The situation becomes even harder when factoring in the team's other needs. The Yankees cannot afford to focus solely on the outfield. Starting pitching must be reinforced, especially after injuries and inconsistencies last season. The bullpen needs upgrades after several stretches where leads slipped away late in games. And if the front office seriously considers a blockbuster trade for a superstar like Corey Seager or another high-impact player, they must save ammunition in the form of prospects and payroll flexibility. Grisham accepting his qualifying offer doesn't necessarily block any of these moves, but it forces the Yankees to be far more strategic and precise in their decisions. There's also the added possibility that Grisham could be moved later. His contract is not impossible to trade, and teams that value his power and potential defensive rebound might see him as a viable target. But that requires finding a partner willing to absorb his salary and accept the risk, and it also depends on whether the Yankees secure another outfielder first. It creates a delicate balance of timing, negotiation, and willingness to take calculated risks. Brian Cashman now finds himself juggling multiple high-stakes priorities at once. He must determine whether to pursue an expensive free agent, trust the young talent he has spent years developing, or commit even more resources to a monumental trade that would reshape the entire franchise. Every move impacts the next, and every decision made between now and the end of the offseason will define the expectations for the coming year. The Yankees cannot afford to miscalculate again after falling short in key playoff moments and dealing with a mix of injuries, underperformance, and roster instability. Grisham's decision adds pressure, but it also adds opportunity. If his offense continues trending upward and his defense rebounds, he could be a cornerstone in center field. If not, he becomes a movable piece in a much larger puzzle that will determine whether the Yankees spend the year competing for a championship or scrambling to fix mistakes in the middle of the season. What makes the situation so compelling is the sheer uncertainty. But before we continue, please remember to join our channel and give this video a like. Your support allows us to keep bringing you the latest news about the New York Yankees. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments. A shockwave rippled through the Bronx late last night, stirring a mix of disbelief, excitement, and outright frenzy among fans and insiders alike. According to whispers echoing from multiple clubhouses, Zack Wheeler has arrived in a blockbuster trade that no one saw coming. While nothing has been officially confirmed, the buzz around Yankee Stadium is deafening. The Yankees may have just made the most aggressive win-now move of the season. Word is that Wheeler touched down quietly, slipping into team facilities under the radar, a move that only intensified speculation. Club personnel were spotted in unusual late-night meetings, and several players hinted, without quite saying so, that something big was brewing behind closed doors. The air around the clubhouse feels charged, as if everyone senses the organization has decided the time for half measures is over. Those close to the situation claim the Yankees' front office has grown increasingly impatient with near misses and fleeting postseason appearances. The arrival of Wheeler, one of the most electric and durable arms in the league, would signal a dramatic shift toward an all-in mindset. Pairing him with the team's established rotation would instantly give New York one of the most intimidating pitching staffs in baseball. Even rival scouts, speaking off the record, admitted that if the rumors are true, the balance of power in the division may have just tilted sharply north. Inside the fan base, excitement borders on hysteria. Social media exploded overnight with grainy photos that may, or may not, show Wheeler entering the stadium's players' gate. Some insist they saw him throwing a brief bullpen session in pinstripes. Others laugh it off as wishful thinking, though their voices don't quite mask the hope underneath. One thing feels undeniable. The Yankees seem determined to chase an immediate title, and this move, if real, fits perfectly into that narrative. For now, it remains a swirling storm of rumors, cautious nods, and knowing smirks. But in the Bronx, whispers tend to become reality, and this one is growing louder by the hour. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the New York Yankees, please subscribe to our channel and give us a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.